Ba ba ba. Is it working? Do do do. Yep. Okay, that's the right microphone. And yeah, I know no changes were made. Alright. I'm actually going to do something totally different. I'll wait to see if anybody shows up. I'm actually going to do... So I'm doing something completely different right now real quickly before I jump back into Sister Night. For anybody who joins while I'm doing this real quick. I am going to design really quickly here and print some little hanging flower pot deals. Cool, yeah? Yeah. So, they don't need to be very thick. 3 millimeters thick. That's probably good. And what I do is actually... So I know we have these those little, you know, they come in like a tray, and they're about 3.5 inch square. So that's the size that I'm making these, because the idea, what we want to do, is we're gonna put a like a grid trellis thing on along the back of the garden by the fence, and then we're gonna put these little S hooks in there. And so we want just some little pots that can hang on here, and so it'll sit on here, and then the plant will be in there and will grow down the fence. And obviously we can go and buy some, but let's not do that. Hey Andrew, anytime we can make something instead of buy something, that is a bonus. So this is my basic shape for the pot, and then I am going to hollow this out. Oh yeah, this is working much better. You guys can see my toolbar, but that's not as big of a deal because you can see all the tools. So I sketched out the basic shape that I wanted, and then I am going to... Actually, you know what? I'm going to back up a step, go back to my sketch. So this is my basic shape for my flower pot. What I'm going to do, I'm actually going to do it a little bit differently than what I was just doing. So this is my wall, and when you're extruding something, so you can put in your dimension. Oh, and you can actually... I talked about this a little bit on the last stream, but actually, now that you guys can all see what I'm talking about, I will take it a step back. So I was talking about dimensions and using different dimensions because for some reason I feel like I should always do 3D modeling in metric, but my brain doesn't really think in metric a lot of the times unless it's specific things like the thickness of something I'm going to be printing, because everything with 3D printing is usually in metric by default. But my brain doesn't work in metric because I'm an American, and I barely learned the metric system. And so when I'm doing things, I leave the default on the program in metric, but you can convert it. You can switch what the settings are. They're actually, you can go into document settings and you can change the units. But if you, like what I do is I leave it in millimeters all the time, but what's really cool about Fusion 360 is that all of the dialog boxes like this are smart enough to take different measurements. So you can see it's defaulting to millimeters, but like I want my flower pot to be 3.5 inches deep. So if I put 3.5, it's defaulting to millimeters, and you can see it's really narrow. But if I just do IN, it's smart enough to do the inches, and then it basically will convert it to metric after I hit enter. There's a lot of borrowing from the older Star Wars stuff on the newer Star Wars stuff, and then you know, some retconning and all that good fun stuff. The reason I went backwards though is because what I wanted to do is I don't want it to be just, I want it to have a little bit of a shape to it, and I could do this afterwards, but because I just want to shape it a little bit, I can do it now. So what you can do is you can actually add a taper angle on here. I'm probably do like 15 degrees. Oh, okay, let's try like 5. Oh, I'm going the wrong way, that's why. Let's go -5. Oh my goodness. There's a lot of trial and error when I'm doing this. There we go. There's -1 angle. An angle of -1, and what that looks like is, I can barely even tell that it's an angle there. Oh, I'm actually gonna select this whole thing. There we go, that's better. There we go, so you can see it gives it a little bit of shape. I don't want a whole lot of shape, just a little bit. So it's not just a cube. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. What else is cool is not only is it context sensitive, but it also can do math. So for example, if I do 3.5 inches, it's going to cut, and I'm going to change this to also get a -2, right? Because I want those walls to be even thickness at the front and the back, yeah. So I do -2, and you can see if I do 3.5 inches, it's going to cut a hole all the way through because that was the length. But what I can do is I can actually do, I can say, okay, I want the bottom to be as thick as the sides, and the sides are 3 millimeters thick. So I can do 3.5 minus 3 millimeters and hit enter, and it actually does all the math for me and calculates it. So there we go. So now I have a bottom that is the same thickness as the sides. And I could stop here and have a nice pencil cup, but I'm not going to do that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go back in here, and I'm just going to add, let's go with like 10 millimeters. Yeah, that works. I'm going to add just some drainage holes. Now this is on the back side, so it doesn't technically need drainage holes because it's going to be facing the wall, but I'm going to do it just so it can get some air and moisture into the back. I'm also going to put holes in the bottom though for drainage. Cool. Speaking of Star Wars, I'm going to take my headphones off for a second. Check this out. Oh, I can't tell.
It doesn't have the liner in it.
It doesn't have the liner in it, which is why it's falling down so far, but you can see pretty cool. It's pretty bright because of the sun coming in the window, but these are the helmet and the topper part here is from Alan Amos Creations, but we're doing the cloth covers for his buckets. It's awesome. Messed my hair all up. That's okay. Pupper's still sleeping over there? Yeah. The puppy is sleeping on the bed behind me.
Hi, baby. You have to get up. Can you go up? Let's go.
He probably needs to go potty. So I'm actually, and not only, oh gosh, that makes me nervous. I have my, speaking of Lego, I have my my Valkyrie Loki locked in eternal battle right here on my desk. I also I have my Sabine, and I made her a Darksaber, sort of. I just took this as like a fin from I don't even know what. It was in my son's random bin because he builds everything and then eventually like it gets broken or taken apart and then just everything gets mixed together. So like almost none of his sets are all together. But I found this and I was like, it kind of looks like the Darksaber blade, and I put it on a lightsaber hilt and gave it to Sabine. Because why not? But yeah, so also, like, anywhere you can put holes that don't, like, impact the structure of something, especially for something like this, it's good because that's less filament that you're going to use. I talked about this a little bit last time, but you couldn't see it on the way that the stream was going. But so here I made this circle, and it's a 10 millimeter diameter. So instead of having to delete it and redo it, it's really easy because I can actually go in here and just click on this, and then the dialog box pops up that I talked about last time, and I can change it, and there we go. And then I could, I can copy and paste this and put them in a bunch of different places. But the other thing I can do is I can just go in here and say rectangular pattern. And you can make a pattern in multiple directions. So I can go this way, I can go this way, and this just defaulted to 3 and 3 right there. So actually that's kind of perfect. So I'm just going to do that and be done with it. Bam. Okay, so now I'm going to... So this is one of the cool things. Yeah, that's not quite nearly as bad. This is one of the things I was talking about last time too, about how since it's parametric modeling, you can go back in history and now, oh, my face is over top of the history bar, so you still can't see it. Let me move my face to somewhere that's not as important. I'm going to move my face up to the very top corner. There we go. Oh yeah, that's not nearly as scary. So here's the history bar in Fusion 360, which you can turn off, and there are certain times you need to turn it off, but I'm not going to go into that. But so for example, I can jump back in history, so I can roll backwards. So that's where I just had the cube before I cut out the hole in the middle. But the other thing you can do is, so now I'm back in present time. But you can click on something in the past. So if I go and click on this from back here, it will let me edit a change that I already made. So this is going back a step, and I'm editing this before we made the cut. And so I'm actually going to go in here and unselect the circles I just added, and then hit OK, and it will retroactively update everything. And that is not going to work because of the angle that I put on it. So I'm going to undo that. So we're going to go ahead and just leave that as is, and instead I'm going to cut these out of where we are now. I'm going to do that. And just to cover a couple of the other ways that you can do things in here. So the Extrude Tool is probably what I use the most, just because it's pretty powerful and it does a whole lot of things. But so, I could just go like this, and you can see it turns to the red. By default, if you're extruding something and it connects with an existing model, it defaults to cut, which it did over here. And you can see I just dragged this and went all the way through. And for this, I would just hit OK and be done with it, and it would be fine. But what you could also do is, and you can see if I go where it's not touching anything, it defaults to making new bodies. But the other thing you can do, and sometimes this is important, in this case, like I said, there's nothing in between where my sketch is and where the part of the body I want to cut is. But if there was something, like say there was something in the middle of this, and I dragged this through here, and it was cutting not only the holes in the bottom, but something in the middle, what I could do instead, this has a starting point. So right now, by default, it starts wherever your sketch lives. But I could change this and say from body, in which case then you can see the context changes a little bit, and I have to select where I want it to start from. So I can select the bottom here, and now all of a sudden it's starting from down here instead of up there. In which case I need to, oh, it didn't actually select the body. There we go, select the body. It's not selecting this for some reason. That's weird. Okay, select this body. There we go. Okay, so now I selected it. You can see instead of coming from up here, it's extruding from here. So now I can just go in here, and I know this is 3 millimeters, so I can do exactly, perfectly only what I need it to do, and hit OK. So same exact end result, and like I said, in this case, that was more work than it needed to be, but that was more just to illustrate the point than anything else. Okay, so now I have my little flower pot, and I have some holes in the back, and I need to do two things. I need a spot in the top where I can put the S-hook in, and what I'm probably going to do is, let's see, I'm going to want to, needs to have enough room to do one of these kind of guys, and then still hold it up there. So I'm actually going to, this is one of my very trusty tools that I use all the time for 3D modeling, which is digital calipers. So I'm going to turn it on, and it's already set to millimeters. So I'm actually going to measure exactly how far across this is. So this is 40 millimeters. So I know I need, once this comes in, like to get it in, I need 40 millimeters of clearance between the front and the back for it to go in. So I'm going to, I spun this around quite a lot. So we're going to call this the top now. And so I'm going to, you can add a sketch to a face. So I'm going to add a sketch right on here. I'm going to get a rectangle. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to, this will tell you if you're aligning it to a body when the little triangle pops up. That means you're at the midpoint. So I'm going to put a line here just so I know where the midpoint is, so I can make sure I center this where I want it. Now, I'm thinking, so this is going to hang on the fence, and the other nice thing about this digital caliper is the body of it just by itself is a ruler. So you don't really need to see the ruler part of it, but so this is, so we have 3.5, actually from here to here is the length of this flower pot, and I want this to sit right about in the middle, and this is going to be on the fence. So I know I need that first one to start about 1 inch from the back. So what I'll do is, oh, and then I need to measure how wide this is. So again, I'll turn this on and measure the width of this, which is about 7.5 millimeters. I'm rounding up a little bit just so I have a little bit of extra room to maneuver that in there. But so it's 7.5, oh, we're going to go with 8. And so what I'll do is I'm actually going to put a box, and so it's going to be 4 millimeters because that's half from the center line. And then I'm going to go 1 inch because that's how far from the back I want it to start. Then I'm going to take and I'm going to make another box. I'm going to start in this corner, and I'm going to come over 8 millimeters because that's how wide I actually want it to be. Oops, that's, sometimes I lock the wrong thing. So that one's 8 millimeters, and then this one I actually don't want to be locked because I am going to drag this. This one is 8, that's the width, and then I already forgot what I said though. This was what, 40? Yeah, 40. I didn't forget. I thought I forgot. I second guessed myself. So 40 millimeters. Okay. So that's the complete space that I need to fit the S-hook in there. So I don't need this rectangle anymore that I made before, so I'm going to select it if I can, delete it. I try not to keep extra pieces that I don't need, just because anything extra is just another thing that can get messed up. So now I am going to take and I'm going to make another little thing here in the middle. And this is again one of those things where I am going to, in this case, I'm using millimeters. There we go. So now I'm going to punch this and this out of the top. I'm going to select these, and then I'm going to extrude it and go boop. There we go. So cut the hole out of the top. That is going to be for where the hook goes. And I'm actually, just to give a little bit more room to get the hook in there, I'm actually going to, instead of going, so there's actually two ways I could do this. I'll do it both ways just so you can see. So I want to make this a little bit bigger just to give it a little bit more room to get the hook in there and to give it more of a swing angle instead of having to be straight up and down. So there's two ways I can do this. One way is I can go into the sketch, and again, because it's parametric modeling, if I go in here and edit this sketch, I'm going to just, oh, it's trying to drag the whole thing. So I have this, so if I go in here and I say 15 millimeters, oh, that's the wrong one. I want this one. There we go, 45 millimeters. It actually extended it forward instead of backward. That's okay, I'm just going to drag this up. Like that. If I hit finish sketch, because I modified that, it auto adapts, and you can see now the hole is bigger. The other way that I could have done that, and again, a lot of these things, there's so many different ways to do the same thing, and it comes down to either what you're more familiar with or what makes the most sense for your particular part. In this case, because I just really want to extend this one thing, what I can do, instead of going in and editing the sketch and everything else, I can just go in here and go press pull with this one face selected, and I can go, you know, I want to move that 5 millimeters back. Oh, that's weird. Why is it changing the other one? It should only be moving this face. Oh, that's weird. I've never seen it do that before. I say that a lot when I'm using this program, though. I'll be like doing something and be like, oh, that's new. So I'm going to do something a little different, actually. That's easier than what I was trying to do the last time. Again, this is 8 millimeters wide, and I want this to be, I'm going to add 5 millimeters here. And when you have multiple things like this, what you can do is you actually can use these, the scissors, which are the trim. So if I trim this wall right here, it basically just made that half of that giant rectangle bigger. So if I hit finish, it'll automatically update that cutout, and there we go. Now just the back is bigger, just like I wanted. Is the puppy still on here? Oh yeah, he is. I was gonna make sure who's watching the puppy and where the puppy is. So now I'm gonna go and I wanted to do something a little bit different on here. Let's see, what do I want to do? Ooh, you know what? I have an idea. I know how to make this even cooler. So I showed this the other day, but I actually have it printed out now. I made this. I made a Zelda soap dish. Because why not, right? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just steal. I think I can do this. I don't know if I've ever actually tried this before. I'm just going to steal this Triforce. Now, of course, you know, they're just triangles. They're pretty easy to do, but also, I am being lazy right now. So, is it going to work? Let's see. Oh, it is going to let me do it. Awesome. I'm going to just jump in here. I'm going to, let's see. I think I can't, I don't think I can scale it until after I put it in, but that's okay. I'm just going to center it, hit OK. Now we have Triforce on there. And I'm going to pick these all, and then I'm going to go modify sketch scale. Pick my point for scaling, which is going to be here. Which should, yeah, okay, that's exactly what I wanted. I'm going to scale this up all the way to the edge right there. Okay. Perfect. Now, I'm going to scoot these up actually. Modify, move. I'm going to just scoot it up a little bit. And yeah, that's about centered. Hit OK. And now I'm going to do the exact same thing I did with the thing on the other side. Going to, oh, I got to finish my sketch. And then I can just knock that right out of there. So now we have Triforce on the bottom, which is going to be where the drainage is. I know it's kind of overkill to put a little design on the bottom where no one will ever see it, but all that means is that I should also put it on the sides where people can see it. So I'm going to select those, and I'm going to go over here, and put it on the side too, because why not? Oh, what did I just do? Select this face, select add a new sketch, paste the Triforce on here, but of course this time, since now we're on the side of the cup, this is the way it's gonna, wait, let me make sure I have that, the top up. Yep, okay, the top is up, good. I'm gonna flip this 90 degrees, and then put it right in the middle, bloop, okay, then I'm gonna highlight these, finish my sketch, and then in this case I'm actually going to go all the way through the whole thing because I want it to cut out both sides. Bloop, there we go. So now I have Triforce on the bottom, and let's see, there we go. And oh well, that's upside down looking only because I flipped it that way. All right, so there we go. Triforce on the side. Cool. Now I have a little hangy flower pot thing. I'm gonna save this, and this is just gonna go in the miscellaneous folder. Let's see. Hylian flower pot. Bam, done. Okay. I close my soap dish back up. Don't save that. Okay, back to Sister Knight and the Watchman. Hey, my sticker is still on my cup. Cool. Alright, so, as you can see, I didn't do much since the last stream. I made the big star, and that's about as far as I... Oh, actually, I take that back. I'm lying. I added the text. I didn't actually cut any of it out, which you can't see because of this. There you go. So, have the Tulsa Police on the top, the Nos Custodemus across the bottom here, and then these are actually overlapped because I have both, not that one, I have Detective and I have Chief. So I have both available now to me. Right now though, I don't need any of those, and I don't need that either. Oh, not that one, that's the one I'm working on. I don't need that. Okay. So, where I am now is I am working on adding the Oklahoma State seal on here, which is on the center of the badge. So the first thing I'm doing is the star and then the field of stars, because that's going to be the easiest. Plus then I also need more stars for this part here that goes around, which I haven't counted how many stars there are yet. I should probably do that. I think that looking at the actual, whoa, there we go. Looking at the actual picture here, yeah, you guys can see that. We'll make it easier than trying to do it on there. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Wow, there's blood splatter, but there's 9 up to there, which means there's 8 on the side of the center stars, and there's another 8 over there. So there's 17 stars. I wonder if that is relevant in any way. Going back to my rabbit holes. Let's see. Tulsa Police, 17 stars. Oh, jeez. Alright, you know, we're not going to look at that right now. Of course, I go Tulsa Police and 17, and what comes up is a bunch of things of arresting and brutalizing 17-year-olds. Okay, yeah, we're not going to look at that right now. Cool, let's go back to this. We'll do that later. So, stars. So the stars on this actually aren't like a standard star, which would have been much easier to create. These ones have the arms are a little fatter than just like a standard, you know. I'm sure these different kinds of stars have names, but you know what I'm talking about. It's like the star where you can connect the line. So like this isn't a straight line from this point to this point. They go in at a different angle. So, and actually, now that I'm looking at this, it doesn't look right. Something looks off with my star. Not that one. I mean, all the angles look I think the angles are a little off, actually. Alright, well, you know, I'm going to undo back to where I was. I think I can still undo. I don't think I closed it since I did this, so I should be able to undo and back out to when I first made the star. There we go. So I'm gonna, let's see. So that's like, so this is what I meant though, is that it's not a it's not one of these where the angles are you can draw the line between all of them. Well, it's interesting. Let's try and wing it though. I don't think... Yeah, I think part of the problem is that when I... See, this is a little bit off, which then when I repeat the pattern all the way around makes it even more off, I think. Or maybe it was just the way that I combined them together. Let's see. Okay, if I take these two things, these should be even. I go in here and I do a circular pattern like I did before. This is the center point, and there's 5 points, obviously. See, the part that is throwing me off is that these two should overlap in the center, which they're not doing. Which tells me I have something a little off up here. It's not going to line up exactly with the image behind, which is fine. Oh, this is not... I think it's this is actually the problem. There we go. So again, you can see I just did some math in there. Alright, so now, if I take these two things, and I do a circular pattern, I could have sworn I put the angle in I did that angle like that the first time, but apparently I didn't. Oh, there we go. Now they cross dead center. Perfect. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Now I'm going to use the trim tool again to trim these little extra bits off. Oh, I clipped the wrong thing. Alright, clip off this little bit, not the big bit. Okay, so now you should be able to, yep, there we go. Perfect star. Okay. Now I can get rid of, I made this, you can make polygons, which are really great if you need to make something that's a regular shape, and you have like the, you know how many points it is. Like if I'm doing anything that's like a star or triangles or anything, I know the outer dimensions, I'll use a polygon to build it kind of inside, but then when you're done, you don't need the polygon anymore, so it's gone. So there's my star, and on this, it has this, it has the outside, and then it has this inner ridge, and it's not very big. So for something like this, I do the offset tool, and I'm going to do, nope, not negative, because I don't want to go that way, like 1/4 of a millimeter, probably looks about right. I think half is too much, yeah. So go like that. So there you go, you have that little ridge inside. And then, almost back to where I was. So the next thing that I did is I actually, I'm going to select this, and I think, I can't do that with this scale, no. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this star, and I'm going to do a move. But I'm not going to, oh, I can't do that with a move, okay. I'm just going to do a copy and paste. Control C, Control V, good old copy paste. So now I have another of the exact same star right on top of this one. So I'm going to pick it, do the scale again, and the point is going to be the top of the star. And I'm going to scale this way down, all the way down, 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 to right there. I think that's the right size. Okay, so now I have this tiny baby star, and my plan, I'll see if this works. My assumption is that these are all spaced out evenly, and if they're, you know, if it was a full circle of stars, that this would be a full circle all the way around a certain number of stars. That's my theory. So let's see if that works. Because I don't want it to make a ginormous number of stars and space them all out and move them. So I'm going to click on this, and it looks like they're lining up okay. And so there's 5 in each one of these. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 25 stars. And then if we think there's one at each point, that would be 30 stars. So let's see what happens if I do 30 stars. Oh, look at that. Yep, 5, 5, 5 evenly spaced between the other stars, and there's one at each point, and I'll get rid of those ones because obviously I don't need those ones. So now I can go in here and I can delete these ones that are overlapping that I don't need. It won't like it if you delete something that's part of a pattern, but I don't really care. Because it's not going to be the end of the world. All it means is that I won't be able to, you can modify a pattern after the fact, but if you edit parts of it, you can't edit the pattern anymore. But I don't need to, because I think that looks pretty good. Cool, so I have the first row, and now, in theory, I should be able to just do the same thing again and again and again. So I'm going to take this one, because it's at the right angle for this, and I'm going to take this and hit move, move this guy right under. Are they actually, yeah, they are stacked pretty perfectly on top, one on top of another. So if I go right there, and then I take this guy and do the same thing, I think it's going to be a little bit different count, because so we have 15 stars that I need, but the question is how many. There's probably, I'm going to go with, if these were evenly spaced, there would be one basically here and here where it touches the star. So that makes 5 in each section. So I'm going to go with 25 and see what that looks like. And, oh, yep, I would say that I guessed perfectly correct. So hit OK with that. And then the same thing, I'm going to delete these extra stars that I don't need. Now, I don't have to delete these. The reason that I am deleting them, though, is because anywhere where you have sketch lines intersecting, you can see, so like, this is a good example. So, you know, this star is all one shape, and up here, where I've deleted them, it's unbroken. You can see over here, where the stars overlap, the star shape, it basically, when you click on something to do like an extrusion like I was doing with the flower pot, it highlights just the things that are contiguous. If you want to get other stuff, then I would actually go in here and have to select those little bits to make the big star. Not necessarily a huge deal, it's a little bit extra work. Where it gets tricky though is as you get more complicated stuff and with like lots of overlapping, it's possible that it gets so cluttered that you have a hard time selecting just the things you need. That's also why I have multiple sketches, to try to separate stuff that I know needs to overlap onto other layers, just to save myself the headache of having to try to figure that out and move it later. I've had a few times where I've done something like that and it overlaps and intersects so much that you, like, especially on stuff where it's really busy, where you'll have like these little tiny slivers of that are isolated that aren't supposed to be like an actual thing, and you'll, you know, extrude something and there's this little tiny sliver that didn't get extruded, so you actually have like a hole that is like almost invisible when you're looking at stuff, and then you'll try and do stuff with your object, like say you wanted to, you know, curve and fill at the top. And you'll be like, okay, fill this, and you'll be like, oh, I can't do it. And you're like, why not? And it ends up it's because there's like this little tiny like sliver of a hole like somewhere inside your object, and it's making it so that it's trying to curve inside that hole too, and it won't work. And so yeah, so it's better to just avoid that as much as possible up front. So do the same thing again. center point. This time we're gonna go with, we know there's 5 stars, but I think there's probably maybe 2 on each one still. We're gonna go with 2. We'll see from there. So that would be 15 stars. Did I do that math right? I did. Okay, perfect. That worked. That lined up. Okay. Do that. And yeah, I was doing them one by one, but you can highlight multiple things. I tend to like to do one enclosed object at a time. You can see when I mouse over this, it wants to do just that one line, so you have to like double click to get it to select everything that's a contiguous shape. And sometimes if you're also doing that while you're doing shift, it won't select what you want properly. So that's why usually, especially when something's overlapping, I'll be more cautious. But I tried it and it worked, so what the heck, I went with it. Cool. Okay, so now we have the star and all those stars. So the next thing I need to do is more stars. And those stars look like they're a little bit bigger. And I'm going to switch back over to my actual photo. See if I can see a little bit better. I keep doing that. Wrong button. Okay, so trying to tell, and I can't really tell on that picture. Let me see if I can tell on one of the other pictures better. If the stars on there are, oh, here we go. This is the better lighted picture. It's so hard to tell. It looks like, yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure the orientation actually followed the curve versus like these ones are right side up or whatever, but it doesn't. It looks like they actually do go pretty much upside down because they're so close to the bottom. So it's just a circle of stars again. That's easy enough. So I'm actually going to take this one. It's always good when you're doing like a pattern to start with to start at the top or to start at like the top or bottom position, only because it's easier to do your pattern that way. At least for me it is. So for example, and I need to see where my text is. There we go, because I need it to line up. So it should line up. I think that'll actually be pretty close to perfect. So I'm gonna hit OK, and I'm gonna hide that again. I feel like these stars are a little bit bigger actually, but it's also kind of hard to, yeah. So I feel like it should fill that space more, and it's actually bigger than the text. So I'm gonna take and I'm gonna scale this one. It's like, even though I know there aren't any stars down here, it's on the vertical axis, so that makes it easier to scale it and do the circular pattern if I am on the axis. Alright, I think go to 1.69, hit OK, and then, and then I'm going to move this a little bit because I want it should actually be kind of centered on where the text is. A lot of this comes down to kind of eyeballing it too. Oh, that doesn't make any sense. No. Okay, go back, go back, go back. Ah, too far. There we go. So that's about, so what I look at, especially like with the grid, I'm looking at the bottom of the T, right? And this is about 1 cube worth of distance. From here, it's a little bit less. I'm going to bump this back a little bit more that way. Okay, we're going to go with that. And then I'm going to do the same thing again, create a circular pattern. Center point is still this. And let's see. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, that's right. There are 17 stars up there. And that's about 2/3 of the way. I'm just going to go with 22 stars and see how that looks. There's one in the center, which is what I was going for. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, that's hitting a letter, and I need 8 that don't hit the letter. So I'm going to go with 25 stars. No, I need an even number, so I have one at the center. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 before the letters start. 1, 2, and I need, wait, I needed 8, right? I'm going to double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Yes, definitely 8. So 26 is too much. So I'll go down to the next even number, which is 24. Which gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And obviously 8 on that side, so that is perfecto. I will turn the text back off. And I'm going to delete these stars that I don't need again. Oh, wait a minute. I need that one. Don't delete that one. Bam, deleted. Okay, now if I turn this back on, the text fits right in there with the stars. Nice, okay. What time is it? Oh, it's 4 o'clock already. Okay, so there we have the big star, the little stars, the medium stars, all the text. I can turn on all my sketches. You can actually see what I have so far and turn off the background. So we have the outside shape. This one just says, no, which is the one that just says chief? This one. We'll turn that one off so we just see, don't have the overlapping. So there we go. We have Tulsa Police, we have the stars, and I'm gonna, that all looks like it checks out pretty well. Like I was saying before on the last stream, the one thing that's tricky is Sister Knight's badge is actually different than the Chief's badge for who knows what purpose. But I'm pretty sure these counts are still the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep. There's 17 and 7, or 8 and 8, and then one in the center. The outside's the same. That's the same. The only thing, so the biggest difference, I'm gonna open this side by side. So the biggest difference that's left is, okay, so we have the Tulsa Police part, we have the Detective Chief part. The thing with hers is she has this ridge right here that I don't like, because that's just and then this whole thing was inset inside of that, which is different than this. That's okay. So what I'm going to do is, how am I going to reconcile these in a way that makes me happy? I'm going to actually search something. Let's see. Seal of Oklahoma with Cherokee star. Just wanting to look to see if the actual state of Oklahoma has ever done a version that has the Cherokee star in the middle, because my guess would be no, and it sure looks like the answer is no. Which is good. It's cool, I like that. But what that does mean is, what it makes me wonder is, still going back to what I was saying before, why did they, even on this one, which is what makes it weird. Like on this one I understand, because you can see I'm pretty sure they did like eradicate the 5 nations from this, but I also am pretty sure, I mean, those would be empty, right? There's stuff in there, so I'm pretty sure they left them on this one, but then they still replaced the center with the Cherokee Nation seal. It doesn't help that both the regular seal, if you're looking at like this, the regular seal has it's not the same plant. I just read this. Where'd it go? It was on this page before. So, yeah, it's oak leaves are what are around the Cherokee Nation one, and let's see. Here you go. So the center of the star was the seal of the territory of Oklahoma. Interesting. Okay, the top point is for the Chickasaw Nation with the warrior holding the bow and shield. Upper left, Cherokee Nation, the wreath of oak leaves with the star. Upper right is the Choctaw Nation with a tomahawk, a bow, and 3 crossed arrows. Lower left hand is for the Creek Nation, showing a sheaf of wheat and a plow. Lower right hand point is for the Seminole Nation, showing houses and a factory on a lake with a hunter paddling a canoe. And then the stars, there are 45 small stars, which is how many states were in the Union when Oklahoma became a state in 1907. And the big star is obviously Oklahoma. So let's see, the territory of Oklahoma. There's nothing about their seal. Let's see. Seal of territory of Oklahoma. It's just showing me the current stuff. Oh, this is, okay, so this is what's in the middle. Well, I guess there's even a full color one. Let's see. So this is what's in the middle of the state seal, which that obviously is not. That's obviously the Cherokee Nation star. And what I wanted to see is if there's any way, looking at a closer up picture, if that could be mistaken for that, but I'm going to go with absolutely not. So they replaced the Cherokee, they put the Cherokee Nation star and symbol in the middle of her badge too, but left the rest of the star the same, which, yeah, it's making me bonkers, but trying to figure out why they did that. But yeah, you can definitely tell because the whatever kind of branches the Oklahoma seal has, they go all the way around. And this one goes, 70% away around like the Cherokee one does, like this. So it's definitely that. Definitely. This is interesting. Oh. State seal of Sequoia. Sorry, this stuff is fascinating to me. I love researching these things. The proposed Capitol building for the state of Sequoia would have been in Fort Gibson. The exhibit explores the history behind Sequoia, the state that never was. Whoa. There actually were going to be 2 states, Oklahoma and Sequoia. Why don't we ever get taught any of this stuff? in history class growing up. So basically it would have been like the eastern and western part of Oklahoma. Wow. Huh. That is fascinating. Huh. And they made him... So this was the original seal. They were both designed by the same dude. And this was the seal that he designed for the state of Sequoia. And then they said, hey, can you design this one for the state of Oklahoma? And they basically took his idea, turned it right side up, added in the thing in the middle around the 5 tribes. Because the state of Sequoia was for the 5 tribes. And put that in the middle, flipped it around. And, well, now we have Oklahoma. The 5 tribes called for a constitutional convention to create a state of Sequoia. Had a Bill of Rights, 3 branches of government, system of checks and balances. Wow. So it was approved, sent to Congress, and then they rushed through making Oklahoma a state that basically took over, surprisingly, right? Shocking. Not shocking, not surprising. And they basically just steamrolled over them and made them part of the state, and more colonizer bullshit. Oh, that's fun. Okay, well, that was a nice little side trip. Okay, so next is I'm going to do the other star. So I'm going to hide all of these because I don't need them. I'm going to keep this star just so I can see where that fits in. Actually, I'm wondering if... So one thing, I mentioned you can import stuff from Illustrator, so what I'm going to do is sometimes you can find a nice vector image of something that you can then import without having to do all the work yourself. Let's see. Clip art. Is that going to give me... No, how about line drawing? No, that's just going to give me... I don't know, the star is easy, I just didn't necessarily want to draw the oak branches from scratch, but looks like I might have to. That's okay. That is a-okay. There we go. Cherokee Nation seal vector. That's the one I already have, but that is not a vector graphic. It's the closest thing, though, apparently. Let's see. Oh, these are vector or even transparent images. Okay, that's fine. It's all good. Alright, I'm going to do the star first. So like I said, what I'd like to do, especially for something like this, is I will... the nice thing about this star is these lines... even though the points don't align, these lines do pass through the center point, and this is a straight line, so that will make this much easier. So this is a... Oh my gosh, how many points is that? 3, it's a 7 points. Okay, so go in here, Polygon, Inscribed Polygon. I'm going to pick the center, and I'm going to come out to where I want the first point to be, which is right there, and I'm going to do 7, because there's 7 points. And yeah, I'm going to leave it at 2.5 millimeters. It's a nice, good number. So there we have that. And then I'm going to take, and I'm going to draw a bunch of lines. So this should be relatively easy, especially because, so like I said, so it's actually a right angle to that wall, and this is why having a polygon like this helps tremendously, right? So I'm gonna do that, and then I just do the same thing. In this case, I'm not even gonna do the, because this one is all very regularly shaped and spaced, I'm gonna just draw all the lines instead of doing what I did on the last one, which is the circular pattern. I have one more to go. Oh, I have two more to go. Line there. Line there. Okay, so there's all my points. And then this should be a fairly, yeah, 160 degrees. That sounds right. Does that look right? Well, there's one easy way to tell if I did that right, which is to, I'm gonna do what I said I wasn't gonna do. I'm gonna grab these two and do a circular pattern. Pick the center point. And I need 7 of these. Wait, is that right? Yeah, 7. So these should, if I got the angles right, it should line up point to point, center to center. Yep, okay, bam. So then again, I'm gonna take my trim tool, so you can get rid of all this stuff I don't need. And it's going to give me a little warning down there because I'm messing up my pattern. Bloop, 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 bloop. Okay, and so I can hide this, you can see. Oh, hide that too. So there's my star. And yeah, looks good. So next, this is going to be a little trickier. So actually I have another trick that, I'm going to save this. Save your work frequently. I have a little trick that I'm going to try that sometimes works. Oh, that's not supposed to be there. Close that. Close that. Nope, I don't need that. Okay, here we go, back into here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring this in here to Illustrator. I'm going to drop it into Illustrator, and sometimes, oh, come on, drop it in there. There we go, okay. Sometimes this works. You can do an image trace. I hit make, especially because this is black and white. It might, oh gosh, that did not work well at all. Sometimes what it'll do is it'll actually make it into a pretty decent vector graphic, but that didn't work at all. So I have another trick. I have lots of tricks. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. I meant to just open the image. Okay, so zoom in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my phone. And so this is, I actually use this app quite a lot when I am doing 3D design stuff, especially if there's something I want to try to capture and vectorize that I don't want to have to do all the work myself. So there's this app called Adobe Capture, and what it does is, well, actually, I'm gonna, I seriously, I just use this and take pictures of my screen. So what you do is you point it at what you want, you tap the screen, and it locks it. So I don't know if this is, you're gonna be able to see this, but maybe we'll see. Block the glare. Well, I took it, you freeze it, right? And then, so, you know, it's basically a picture of the screen. But then you have some tools where you can like refine the clarity and the, like how thick the lines are. So, right? I'm missing some detail. Oh, there we go. That's all the detail. Then I'm going to say okay. So once you say okay, then it locks in your picture. So there's the picture of, man, there's the picture of the seal. And then I can crop it, because really all I'm caring about is the oak leaves, the oak branches. I don't care about the rest. So I'm going to crop it in as close as I can. And then you can hit refine, which gives you the ability to erase stuff that you don't want it to. So let's see. So if I go in here, I'm going to undo this because I can't really see what I'm doing. But you can actually like say, oh, I don't want that part, and you can erase stuff. But I'm going to undo that step. I'm just erasing the stuff around the oak leaves because I don't want any of that to potentially impact. Oh. Ah. I used to be able to zoom. Oh, there we go. So I used to be able to zoom. You can also change the brush and eraser size, so you can erase. Man, there we go. I was having a hard time with 2 fingers on the moving versus thinking I'm actually erasing stuff. There we go. So I erased all the stuff around the outside edge. I could erase the star and stuff if I wanted to, but there comes a point where it's not worth trying to actually do that on the phone versus after the fact. Especially because you're trying to do art with your finger on a cell phone. It doesn't really work out too well. So, there you go. So there's the thing. It looks probably like the last thing, but this is actually the final version. So if I hit save, what it does is it will save that as an SVG file. So now I have a vector version of that. Save it to my library. Then, once it's in your library, you can go in, and I can say export as SVG. You can also export as a flat image or whatever, but there's a bunch of other stuff you can do in Adobe Capture too that I have no clue about because I've never like really played with any of the other features. Only because this is the only thing I ever use it for. There's probably other good stuff in there that I would use if I took the time to look for it. Save to. This is the only downside is that you can't like just directly save it off your phone. So I have to save it to Dropbox, and then I have to wait for it to upload to Dropbox, and then for Dropbox on my computer to sync it, so I can get it, and then I have it. And there it goes. I don't know if it's actually. I don't think it's playing the sounds that I get, but I got the "your files here" sound in my headphones, so I don't think you guys heard that. But. So now, if I go back to Illustrator and go, what is going on here? File, open, and I go to Dropbox, in here, shape 32. I didn't rename it. So here we go. So here's the shape, and this may or may not work. Let's see. So what it does is it makes a compound path, which I'm going to release because I don't want it to be a compound path, which makes it do all kinds of weird stuff. That makes like a... First of all, I'm going to switch that. There we go. Alright, so this is really the only part that I care about. Oh, no, I need the leaves too. The leaf pattern. This might be tricky. There we go. Actually, so I'm just going to highlight everything. And I'm going to switch this to that and to that. There we go. That's better. So the only part, I did this weird thing down here where it, oh, that's my fault. That's because I deleted that part and I shouldn't have. Go back, 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 back. Okay. So, now I should have, okay. I'm gonna break this compound path again. Okay, so now everything has been released and everything's all jacked. If I switch this, there we go. The only thing is it connected the star to this, which I don't want, obviously. But now that it's a vector, though, I can go in here and I can edit this. I can add a point there, and I can go in here and where's the loop, loop, and I can, whoa, don't do that. grab that point, connect it there. So that one's fixed. And then delete that. And where's there a point here? Right there. Delete that point. Oh, too much, too much. Delete that. No. I want the next point up, I guess. That one, there we go. Okay. Then I can bring this down. Oh, stop doing that. I just want the point. Bring this down to there. Curve this so it doesn't crowd in there too much. There we go. Okay. So, now, this should be pretty distinct from everything else. And, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Just delete these all out of here. Delete these, because I don't need those. And there we go. I just have the oak branch. So now that I have that, I go in here, File, Save As, and I go into my badge folder, oak branch, save. Okay. Go back into here. Oh, all of that using my phone. I lost track of my actual phone in the Stream Manager. There we go. Okay. So now I'm going to close this sketch. And then I'm going to make another new sketch, because that's where I'm going to do my insert my SVG. And I'm going to pick oak branch. And where is it? Oh my gosh, it's way over there and it's ginormous. That's okay. I'm going to shrink this down quite a lot. And then I'm going to zoom in. And I'm going to drag this over here. And oh, I was so close. So close. Shrink it down a little bit more. Oh, a little bit too much now. Back it out a little bit. And so I don't want it to touch the star. I think this might be just about perfect. I'm going to call that good. Good, okay. So, as you can see, that's a lot less work than manually doing that. And if I go in here, this is so fine, it's kind of hard to... I was trying to do this other sketch instead. The one trick with an SVG file or something like this, you can see I can't click in here, but these I can. That is because that means somewhere there is a hole in the design. So if I do that, that should show me where there's a break. Oh, unsurprising, the break is where I fixed it earlier. So I should be able to just fix that with a little boop. Uh-oh. Come on, don't crash, don't crash, don't crash. Don't crash! Every once in a while, this happens. There's been a couple of times where I've done something in Fusion 360 and I'm like, well, I'm just going to leave this here and hopefully it finishes what it's doing and I'll come back later, and I walk away. When you get the black side panel, that's a sure sign that something very, very bad is happening. It's like 50-50 whether it recovers at this point or not, or if it's going to just completely crash. Oh, it finished. Whew. Okay, so let's see. Is that the only hole? Well, let me select this now. Nope, still not. So there's another hole still, which is probably the other spot I fixed, right? Oh, yep. Look, I was right. It's the other spot I fixed. This hole is much, much smaller, but it will probably still have the same effect. So I don't think I can do this on an SVG, but let's see if I can. Oh, no. it's not going to let me select that. No, I didn't think so. That's okay. Okay, same thing. I just need to connect the dots. And it's going to freak out again. Even though it's that little tiny line. Something about adding to an SVG file always does this, where it just like crunches away, even though it's like just this tiny little change. While we're waiting on that though, for those of you who have managed to hang in there this long, I'm going to show you the other thing that I'm working on that I finished today. That'll be going up. I'm editing the part 1 video after I'm done with this, and will be going up tomorrow morning probably. And then the second part will go up. The first part of the video is a edited down version of the stream from the other day where I was working on the fairy house, and the second part, which will go up later, is the final part. But this is the oh, look at finished before I finish talking. But here is the final of the fairy house. I took all my daughter's miniatures and I put them on there for this picture. But there's also, this is what it looks like without the miniatures, just out in the garden. So that's it. I think it came out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. But yeah, so there's a whole video, and there's like I did a little fly around of the thing, and so you can see all the details and stuff. But that'll be going up. The first part will go up tomorrow, and then the second part probably next week, maybe the end of the week, something like that. Okay, it finished. So now I should be able to select this whole thing without any issue, right? Oh, no, it failed. Which means there's a break somewhere else. It's not my fault. There's no break. It selected the whole thing, and it's all a single line. So why can't I pick this? This is one of the pitfalls of SVGs sometimes, is it does this, where it, even though it's a continuous line and there's no break in it, it won't let me select it to do stuff with it. It's really bizarre. Like, all of these work, you know. I'm sure there's a reason. I just don't know what it is. Usually it only doesn't do that if there's a leak somewhere. But if there's a leak somewhere, it wouldn't let me make this. Oh, what it means, I'm pretty sure that because I can select this and it closes it all, it means there's one hole. So before there were 2 holes, now there's 1 hole, and I have to find that 1 hole to close it. And the reason why it'll let me select everything is because it goes from that point all the way around to the point at the across from the other side of the hole. The question is, where is it? I wonder if there's a tool for, like, find me where there's a break in this path. I would be surprised if there wasn't. This is where sometimes using the tool is not as advantageous, because I'm going to spend as much time trying to fix it and get it to work as maybe if I had just run it all myself from the beginning. There are a lot of times when I use this tool and I go through like all this kind of stuff, and then I'm like, you know what? I don't really like the way it worked, or it's not working the way I want, so I'm just going to go and redo it myself anyway. Which may have to happen here. I know. Let's ask Google. Find a break in a path in Fusion 360. Who knows? It's possible. Find break in sketch geometry. There you go. Here are some pictures on how to find gaps in a profile. You can find the gap quickly by drawing a few lines. Oh. There's an app that finds open ends. Click the OS button on the app page will lead the version for your OS. Oh, there's a thing called, check sketches, this little Oh yeah, I don't want to download some other software. Although that does help track it down a little bit easier. I'm going to try that thing that they said. So what they said was to kind of narrow down where the problem is, you just draw a line. So I'm going to draw a line here across this, right? And now, if I try to select this, it doesn't work. If I try to select this, it does. So now I know that it's somewhere on this half of the screen. So it's all about minimizing down to the point until you get to where you find the issue. So now, is it in this half or that half? Let's see. Can't select that. And, oh wow, well, oh wait, it's gonna have this selected. There we go. Okay, so that's okay. That's interesting. And that is all okay. Okay, so it's somewhere in this specifically. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's somewhere still here where I fixed this thing earlier. So I'm going to draw a line right here. Because if my theory is correct, that it is something to do with the thing I just fixed, then it should, only this little piece here should be broken. Oh my goodness. Come on. I should probably call it for now anyway, because I need to go start getting prepped for dinner time and things. There we go. Oh my goodness, I was wrong. Because this is where I fixed it, and it's working fine. Okay, so that narrows it down a lot though. So that means somewhere in here, between that line and that line, is where something is broken. Oh, look at that. There it is. Something right here, because it didn't connect this. Look at that. Little tiny break. See, this is the kind of thing that gets frustrating because it's so hard to track down unless you're like zoomed into the infinitesimal amount. And I'm making a really long line because I want to blend that line. It's probably going to make it chug for a second. Chug, 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 chug. But then, everything's good. I just got to go delete all those lines I added. And then this should be one solid shape. And what I'll probably do, depending on how it looks, is I'll probably use it. It's so small in the grand scheme of everything else that like I could go through and like redo it and like touch it up and make it like more very exact, but it's so tiny. I mean, the whole badge is only, you know, this big. And so the oak branches itself is, you know, this big. And like you're not going to see that much detail anyway, so as long as it gets the majority of the detail, which it definitely captured, I don't need to really worry about the rest. I mean, if you look at like these, not that one, but if you look at this, like, you know, it's so tiny in the middle here. Like as long as you get the majority of what that looks like, you're pretty good to go. Look at that. Alright, so now I go in here, and it's probably not going to be happy when I delete these lines. I'm going to tell you now. It's probably going to freak out. Is it just the 3? I only did it 3 times? I feel like I did it way more times than that, but that's okay. Let's see. Do-do-do-do! Yes! I got the whole thing. Oh. So I'm going to call that good. Another thing too is I haven't actually started building anything yet in this. I'm just working on the sketches, so that's why I haven't done this thing yet that I'm about to talk about, but so there's all my sketches. I try to name things in a way that makes sense so I know what they are, especially, you know, when I have 20 sketches and when you have a whole bunch of different bodies and stuff. Naming them as you go is really important. So I'm going to go badge. This is just Chief by itself, so I'll leave it there. This is... I did not mean to go into editing mode. That's okay. Oh, stop going into editing mode. I just want to change the name. I'm just going to put notes on that. I don't need to type out the whole thing. This is going to be stars. Because that's what it is. It's all stars. It's kind of cool just like that. And then, last but not least... Wait, does that actually line up? I zoom in? Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, it's in the right position. Good. And oak branch. There you go. Trust me, taking the time to make sure your layers or whatever, your sketches, your bodies are named properly will save you so much time in the long run, so do it. Okay, that is it for today. I am so close to actually starting to model this thing. The only thing I have left to do is, oh, I still need to, I might do the same thing that I just did for the, with using Adobe Capture for these 5 little guys, just because they're so small, so intricate, and I can get those off of, if I don't have one, I can get them off of a different one pretty easily, because there's so many out there available. I think this is probably the clearest one that I have, but I can probably find a better one to use to get the 5 nation symbols. Because yeah, this is the current Tulsa Police Department badge, which has the 5 symbols, but like, and you can see, because it's made out of metal, like, you lose a lot of detail. Like, I mean, literally it looks like a horseshoe and a star more than it looks like an olive or an oak branch. You know, they're just kind of blobby representations of what they're supposed to be, but mine will be better than that. I promise. Cool. Okay. Well, that is it. I'm going to save this so I don't lose my work. Save, yes. Close this. Oh, I need to go back into here real quick, though. I didn't actually export this for printing, so I'm going to do that now. Oh, that's actually a good thing to talk about real quick. I'll cover that real quick before I leave. So, it's really easy to actually print something from Fusion 360. Save as STL file. I'm just going to throw this in here. Flower pot. Flower pot. And then, if I go into my, let's see, load up flower pot. I'm just going to open that, and it'll pop up in my, this is the slicer for our printer. So I'm going to rotate it around because I want that, the holes on the bottom. And because, let's see, it's probably it's gonna want to add some support in there. That's okay. Especially on that, and on that, and on that. The interesting thing is it did support, this is one of the things that, like, it's always weird to me, like, when there's something that clearly the 2 sides are exactly the same, but it decided that it would only do it on one side, not both sides. But since it thinks it needs it on the other side, I'm going to add it manually on this side, even though it didn't do it. Because I would rather it work out than not. There we go. And supports there, yep. Cool. That's very interesting. So if I take these off. Kind of get these internal ones instead of the ones that climb up the side. I like that better. Do the same thing over here. It's interesting that it did those for the top ones, but not the bottom one over here on the other side. It did that for the top and the bottom. Yeah, it's weird. Like, I don't know why. 3D printing is pretty finicky. A lot of times. And like the software will do things that are like, why are you doing that? Why didn't you do that before? But you know, whatever. Let's use my standard settings that I always use for most stuff. Should be fine. Actually, no, these. Yes, stop slicing, please. I'm going to actually edit this to be 10% fill. They don't need to have much infill. That'll save me some filament and time. So slice it, and voila. Upload to printer, go. And when that's done uploading and the thing that's currently printing is done, I will start printing it. Cool. All right, well, I will say thank you for coming, as always, and hopefully I'll be streaming again in the next few days. Have a good evening.